Sorare 26 is getting underway with the start of the Belgium Jupiler Pro League, and in the lead up to the game week we've also got the first glimpse, the first taste, the first touch of what So7 is going to look like. And in the video today I'm going to be cross-examining what So7 looks and feels like against my Champion Euro Classic Rare contingent to see how strong the squad is, to see how strong the gallery is, and if there's anything I want to kind of further enhance, reinforce, or anything that might be dead weight as a result. Because in the last video we did on the channel where we're chatting about super rares and in-season Celtics and the primary route to goal that I've got here on the channel for building in some ROI to win some money this season. But my secondary strategy behind that is the Champion Euro stuff, which was my secondary strategy last season, and I think it did quite okay. It took a while to get going, and this season I would like it to start a little bit hotter, a little bit quicker, and run a little bit more seriously right across the season. This will have some different creases and some different details in it as the season unfolds, because even though we'll be starting in Champ, Rare, Classic, the top 5 leagues in European football, when we do move into the in-season competitions with the cards that we win, maybe a few trades or buys that we do along the way, the only in-season competitions for these cards is the league-specific ones, which then just means the Venn diagram of your champ cards, of what league that they all populate in, you have goalkeepers, you have captain-capable guys, whatever, becomes even more important than ever before. At any point in this video, if you do laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Get into the comment section, let me know what your strategy is for Classic in general next season if you're not playing Champion Euro. And if you are playing Champion Euro, let me know how you're going to try and combat the Classic to league specific kind of bridge that we're all going to need to cross at some point during the season. And if you're brand new to Sorare and you've not even opened up your account yet, there's a link in the description in this video, and it'll be pinned in the comment down below, where at point of recording you will get $100, euros, pounds, whatever your currency is, of market credit on sign up to go and buy your first cards to actually build your squad and to build your gallery. No matter when you click that link and sign up, it will always be charged up with the most amount of market credit, the best beginner bonuses that are available. It helps you, it actually goes a long way to supporting me and the content here at the channel. If you do get stuck, if you've got any questions, the comment section is one of the best places to hit up, but also in the description of the video, I always link my beginner tutorial videos so you can go and learn the basics, learn the ropes, tips and tricks and all that kind of stuff. Now this season I'm coming into the Champion Euro Rare Classic, competition or whatever, with 142 Classic Rares as it stands now. Let's see how some of the transfers shake out. Maybe we'll get some more, maybe we lose a few. But I've genuinely never had so many champ cards. I've never had so many champ cards that I think are first team players or guys that I'm excited about. And looking at 142 cards in your gallery like this, you can get the notepad and paper out. You can think about who your stars are, who your top guys are, and try and figure it out that way, of course, which is just a kind of tried and tested method on Sorare for the last couple of years for us all. And in the absence of Sorare data, we don't really have that lineup builder facility, which means it's just a little bit hard to quantify really like how strong we are and how we're feeling. Going through your gallery and looking at the different positions is always a good place to get started, just so you can get an idea of who the main players are. And I do recommend, as you go through this, maybe take a little note on who in each position maybe the top 3, 4, 5 guys are, because this is multi-entry So7, so it is kind of hard when we've never played this game mode before to really wrap our head around it and start to think about, really like when you get to team 2, 3, 4 perhaps, that can be quite muddy to try and think about, especially with no fixtures in front of you, to think, oh well, they're at home, they're away, this guy's on form, we've played 4 games already, we've got a sense of this guy's overperforming, this guy's underperforming expectations, that sort of thing. But all the same, this kind of cursory base camp kind of level analysis or preparation is definitely something I would recommend to everyone out there. But once you've had a scan through that, maybe you've dived into the secondary market like I've been doing over the last month or two to just try and round off some edges, pick up some pieces that are at a good price, and just try and give yourself more options, or as many options as you can possibly get. Because it's probably the best kind of way to get your bird's eye, your overview on what you've got ready available. Now, like I mentioned in the intro, game week 98 is upon us, and this will be opening up Sorare 26 with the Belgium Jupiler Pro League. But as you guys can see, I've actually went ahead into All-Star, and I've done that sneaky trick of flipping on the switch of show players without games. I've then went through, which took for ages, I went through everyone and tried to build essentially the best 4 teams that I possibly could without having fixtures, without having form, and with having some transfers still in the mix. I still actually have some really important players that I didn't get into this depth chart because, like Xavi Simons, does he go to Chelsea? Does he go some, there's a few things like that floating around that made it hard for this to be a complete exercise as such. But I found this very revealing, going through all of these teams, having to pick 2 defenders and 2 mids was actually a real head scratcher. It was a real dilemma. The forwards were kind of easy enough, and one of the things I found quite revealing was how often the extra spot, me personally, avoided defence. I thought that might be something I would maybe lean into a little bit more. And I'm sure when we get fixtures and we see the form of the players and all the rest of it, I might find myself in triple defence maybe once or twice. But more often than not, as you can see here, I've went actually double forward in 3 of the teams, and in one of them we went for a triple midfield. And I really didn't bog myself down on stacking or keeping guys league specific, put the La Liga guys together, put these guys together or whatever. I just wanted to try and see what would, all things being equal, the best first team I have look like, second team, third team. Third and fourth became quite tricky. It's probably the easiest word to say to try and work out who is who. But I feel really good now having a look at this and sitting and thinking, do you know what? To go after, the division battle when everyone's in one division, I'd be quite confident with 4 lineups of this type of calibre, this type of quality, that 1 or 2 of them could probably strike it rich, could probably hit up quite high. And over the course of the season, I think with the amount of options that I can even just present in these 4 teams here, I should have enough in my arsenal to make sure my first team is very good looking, the second team shouldn't be too far behind, and then the third and the fourth team might be quite fixture sensitive. But I've clicked back onto this 4th lineup that I've built, and I've clicked on the extra position just to sort of demonstrate the amount of depth I've got even further in and behind these 4 So7 lineups. Like I mentioned, Xavi Simons might make a transfer. Broholm has moved to France, could do very well of course. It's quite muddy because this isn't Champ Euro specific, it is All-Star, but it's just to get that So7 kind of lineup builder experience back into my life. Bakwa, we don't know where he'll go. Joachim Fujita, Kieran Trippier, Frankie de Jong, Doku, Taki Kubo, Berardi, Sabitzer, Ta, Leimer, Goretzka's in here somewhere. Kun, now in Italy, same as Kakare, play for the same team in fact. Savio, Dominic Soboslai, maybe Mosquera will play for Arsenal, who knows about that. Matoma, Matt O'Reilly will be lying around here somewhere, who knows where he'll end up. All the Sociedad guys, we've got Openda, Goretzka, there he is, we mentioned him before. I've got a Griezmann that I just brought in this summer that doesn't make it into the lineups, and Kunku could transfer somewhere. Castellanos is staying at Lazio, he was very prolific last year. Guys like Paqueta, again, if he doesn't get banned or whatever, could be somewhat useful. There's that Matt O'Reilly, Alex Valle, Mika Marmol. There's a bunch of guys that could be okay for that Team 4, that Team 3 spot, and if any of them really excel, could maybe make it into Team 2 or Team 1 eventually. But I don't think there's anyone, outside of like the Griezmann, the Xavi Simons, I don't think there's too many guys I've left here on the table that could, in theory, on paper, be Team 2, Team 1 calibre guys that haven't quite made the build. Lots of defender options like you can see here, tons of mids floating around as well. And not a lot of them are that stars, of course, but a lot of these guys in a fixture-sensitive situation could be very useful, could be very profitable to me. And this is something that I spent like a good amount of time on today for the video, because I thought now that we've got So7 out for the very first time, we'll be able to see exactly what that looks and feels like. Now, we actually get a plus 6% on this one, and these other ones say plus 2 on them, and that is the culmination of the multi-club bonus, which is an extra 2% if we don't stack, and a 4% bonus if we stay under cap 370. Now, when I was building these, this incomplete thing kind of threw me through a loop. I didn't really understand it, but it's because all of these guys have got no game this weekend. It's trying to tell me this isn't a team you can actually field this game week, Quinny, which I know. I'll delete all these guys and I'll rebuild it for the weekend appropriately. But even in and behind that, another thing we need to consider is, when you do move into in-season, what will your classic card be? I think for a lot of people at the first protocol, it will, it'll be the goalkeeper for a lot of people. On this already, I've used Oblak, Mignan, Rulli and Vasilj. 4 different leagues. Serie A isn't really covered for Mignan, so, we don't need to worry about that so much. But if I was to take one of them and move them into in-season, who could move in, who could step up for me? Luis Jr. I expect to play for Villarreal. Anthony Lopez is at Nantes still. Dimitrievski should play, might not play. Butez is quite nailed on. I've got no idea what's happening with Paul Lopez or Jasper Killison. And Van der Voort is a wee bit 50-50, isn't he? So we've got some bits and pieces back here. I did win this Valdemarsson last year. He's the the Brentford number 2. The number 1 is expected to be Kelleher. So I've kind of got Kelleher earmarked as the next champ keeper I want to bring in. Obviously for All-Star and for other regions, you can look at the rest of your keepers like are on page here, but it's an important thing to contextualise. Once you've put your 4 main keepers out, like imagine I moved Oblak into La Liga, I moved Vasilj into Bundesliga, I moved Rulli into Ligue 1. If we got a Kelleher, we moved him into a Premier League. Well, Kelleher wouldn't actually impact this at all because he's not even here, but if one of those 3 guys left, where does that leave me? Does that take a team off the board altogether as the depth stands at the moment? If it does, that's not always a terrible thing, because you just find then your variety of choices is over less teams. They tend to end up then being of a higher quality. So it's not always the be-all and end-all losing a team in that regard if it's like your back team, and it just then makes the choices for the team above it maybe a little bit stronger. But as I look at this, I start to then think, what will the scores be required to actually win, to actually smash in this region? Because having double defence, like defenders can be really spiky, but they can also be big letdowns. Defenders is the quiet killer, it feels like, in Sorare, because we're always cheering for goalkeepers, we're always cheering for captains and goal scorers. But if, like, all these defenders, in any defender, you can always imagine them doing a 46, you know what I mean? And if you need to pick 2 of them, the chances of that is just increased even more so. And, you know, you have the same problems in other positions, don't get me wrong, but defence feels like one of those ones where having steady eddies has been okay for the most part, as long as they can peak. Whereas in this game mode, I'm not too sure how vital the defenders will be. Do you need lots of Guardiola level guys around? Will you get away with having, I don't know, Robertsons or whatever it might be, guys that are a bit more steady? But I think there'll be a clear line in the sand drawn for midfielders and forwards where, like, there will be a severe expectation on your best team, on your second best team, certainly, that these guys can get over the 75 mark. And once you get to team 3 and 4, maybe just making sure they get around to that 60 range might just be about acceptable, depending on the division you're in and the strength of the field, the strength of the leaderboard on any given game week. But that is a lot of points that we're talking about. That is a lot of decisive actions. That is a lot of goals. And we've not even taken into consideration yet the fact that we could still pick up DNPs in this game mode, and the captain choice could be something that swings against you, because we still have a captain bonus of 50%, which makes that a really important decision to make if you're going to try and break into, and this is for All-Star rather than Champ, but I'm sure it won't be too dissimilar, but essentially like the top 50 kind of range is what you're hoping for, getting to the good cards, getting to high essence counts, that sort of thing. And making sure all of these teams can have a guy in them that can hold that captain's armband. And really, what sort of guy should you be captaining in Sorare 26? You have to be captaining a guy that's got 80 on the menu, 75 plus, because that 50% bonus on a 50 score, a 60 score, it's not really going to touch the sides. It really needs to be a minimum 75, I would say. But if you can get into 80s and 90s, then you're really up there with the pack. And if the rest of the team delivers as you would expect, then, you know, it should be a pretty good game week. It should work out quite well. So I think from when I've looked at this, I'm like further compounding the future decision I'm going to make. I will bring in a Kelleher goalkeeper. Of that, I think there is essentially no question. And like I mentioned in the Super Rare video, I was looking at Barco's, Foden's, Pogba's. I just feel like midfield is an area, like if you can go triple midfield, I think more often than not, I think that's going to be like the A plus meta, the best way to go, because midfielders can just get themselves into that 70 range quite easily compared to a lot of other positions, certainly. And I think after having looked at this yet again, I think picking up a Foden, maybe not Pogba, because, you know, I like Pogba. I think he'll do well at Monaco. It's just so expensive right now. The in-season version won't be much cheaper either. So I think I might just go for that kind of good value. I don't want to say budget, because he's not a cheap player and he's not let's hope he has a good year kind of guy, somebody like Foden. But I think if I added in something like a Kelleher, added in a Foden, and I could maybe use one more Guardiola level defender. I think some of these other guys I've got could step up to be that type of guy, but I definitely did feel when I went through this that the defence options got kind of meh, kind of quick, you know. And I do think Champion Euro, like the defenders, like we've mentioned, some of them can be bosses, but who do we have on the sidelines that we've not used here? Trippier, Jonathan Tah will probably score quite well, to be honest, at Bayern Munich this year. Mosquera, Gaia, Lenormand, Juranovic, Mika Marmol, Mukiele, let's see if he transfers, Alex Valle, Tapsoba's not bad, Kuto, let's hope he does better, Gutierrez could be fine, it might transfer, it might change his situation a little bit, so yeah, like I have kind of realised like my defence is Defenders are the position I hate buying the most because I just hate them, you know. But generally speaking, it's the cheapest position going. And I think it's even more important now to make sure that the floor on your defence is high. And as a result, as a reverse of that, I think it's even more important that you've got 70 plus capable mids in abundance now. You know, like this team here, I think exemplifies it quite well. Guys like Olmo, Bernie Silva, and Julian Brandt, one decisive 70. You know, they've very much got that in them. And then look at the defensive pick here. I went double fullback, thinking we chase some peaks with a team like this, rather than picking the centre backs that are a bit more reliable or whatever. Again, that may be a bit risque, because fullbacks are quite risky. You might want to go one fullback, one centre back. That'll be an interesting kind of development that'll happen. But for the strikers, like, you could go Rafinha, Cherki, those type of level guys that you expect to kill, could get hundreds or whatever, fine. Guiri, maybe not too far behind. But guys like Lewandowski, Oyarzabal, Jonathan David at Juve, I expect to do well as well. These guys like can get 67, 68 on one goal, even in a quiet kind of match, take penalties and stuff like that as well. You will want forwards that are like nailed on. Just get me to 67, 65 minimum. If you can bring me in above 70, fantastic. But we'll probably have more scoring pressure on our mids and our defenders. I think my early intentions would be to try and get into Premier League and La Liga in season as soon as possible. I think I've just got better quality, like high caliber classics that could make that happen, whether it be goalkeeper options or outfielders if we were able to get an in-season goalkeeper from Crafton or, you know, whatever, that way. Whereas with Ligue 1, I've got some good guys in there, but I think that'll be hyper competitive with the PSG, Monaco, Lyon kind of stacks that will come out of the in-season auctions. And Bundesliga, like, I'm a big Bundesliga fan. I've got a lot of Bundesliga cards, but I don't think it's a competition I want to actively pursue in this regard. La Liga, I've got a very good knowledge base and existing gallery, and Premier League is the biggest payer, and I've got good cards there for that. So I think that's my early intentions. Try and avoid the Bundesliga and Ligue 1 until maybe later in the season when it's just more of an add-on, maybe later on. Whereas initially, the early points of the season, decisions I make, trades I make, etc., I want to try and make sure that it's coherent and drives us in that direction of getting into the Premier League and getting into La Liga as soon as possible. Either one, I'm not too bothered which one comes first. Now, I feel really good right now with where I'm at with my gallery in terms of the primary strategy for rares that we spoke about in the last video. We're still trying to get some Celtic cards in over the line, of course. I'm more than content with where I'm at with the champion guys, no two ways about it. Now, in classic So7 competition, the only competitions that are staples that are going to be here every game week, there might be more, some will come and go, they might innovate and iterate, that sort of thing, but it's only going to be All-Star, which is anything goes, everything. Champ Euro, which is what we've just kind of detailed, what my kind of roster is for that, and under 23. Now, under 23 has no in-season component at all whatsoever, and this is a, you know, this might be a zig and a zag opportunity here, where these cards, what I have in goals, really nothing. Maybe Van de Voort if he plays. Otherwise, I'm not really holding my breath on the rest of these cats. But if I can get an under 23 keeper, or Van de Voort, if Van de Voort plays, we can use him. You know, there will be some really good under 23 in-season cards that can be won from under 23. And because there's now no podium cash on it, and it is global, and some people will be having that focus on, like, oh, I only want to win cards in this league or whatever, I think under 23 might be as least competitive as it's ever been before. And as I'm just kind of scanning across the quality of the variety of options, the quality of depth I'll have at my disposal for that, I think this might be my tertiary, it might be my third little branch that I do try and focus on, making sure I've got good teams in most weeks. I might not always have 4 SO7 lineups going in, but if at least the top team would have, like, really, like, we didn't pick Doku in that, so we could play guys like him here, then I think that could be a sneaky kind of little parallel that we run in the classic competitions this season that could just get us a little bit more essence a little bit quicker, could maybe help us win an extra card a little bit quicker. And as I'm looking at this, like, I don't mind personally sacrificing MLS utility or things like that, contender or whatever else, to prioritise under 23 ahead of them, because I do think for in-season Euro cards, especially if we do smash, we do get high win like tier 2, tier 1 level guys, they will be effective, they will be useful, and Champ I expect to be even more competitive. So I think it's always nice to have that kind of, not necessarily a hedge, but or even a plan B, but just a fail-safe. Like, you know, if I can put 4 teams of that quality out into Champion Classic, like these types of teams, a team that looks something like this could be pretty exciting, it could fly pretty high, Multi-club bonuses and cap bonuses feel like they would be kind of easy to get your hands on quick enough, depending on, you know, these guys' scores as they pan out across the season. I know there's a few question marks here. We don't know if Van der Vaart's going to play. We don't know where Xavi Simons goes. Bakwa might move. I hope Rafa Marin at Villarreal is as good as I would expect him to be. And Miguel Gutierrez, like I said, we don't know where he'll end up. But just as an example, if this is essentially the 5th team that I've got in Classic that's hunting for ROI, you know, I'll have All-Star with the Celtic stuff and whatever, don't get me wrong, but I'm talking about the other Classic cards that will have some sort of competitional, not edge, but shelter, you know, because under 23s, as you know, don't need to worry about fighting against Hakimis and Kimmiches and, you know, all that kind of thing. So the scoring can be a bit more kind, can be a bit more generous if you've, or the rewards can be a bit more generous for a slightly lesser score. But again, in an SO7 context, this will be really interesting to see how under 23 does shape out. Under 23 goalkeeper, if we don't get Van der Vaart, that's something that might be on the agenda, might be on the menu, something we need to work out how we get ourselves into that. And everything else I've kind of spoke about in the video, I don't need to summarise again. But this is a lovely kind of thought experiment I've taken myself through. I thought I would share it with you guys, as well as thoughts and feelings and early opinions on what we need to watch out for, or what we might want to try and make sure we've got built into our gallery already. On screen now some other stuff that I've made that the YouTube thinks you might enjoy. If you did enjoy the video, please do hit the like button, subscribe for more content like this. Get into the comment section and let me know your thoughts, feelings, takeaways, preparations and goals and expectations for Sorare 26. For the Classic section, the SO7, Champ Euro, Under 23, whatever it is you're thinking about doing. Stay out of trouble and I'll catch you on the next one.